Hi, welcome to the DevOps section of our data platform for COVID analytics. So far, we've gone through creating the end-to-end data platform for the analytics project, and now we'll be looking at the DevOps section of it. DevOps has been a buzzword for a really long time, and I'm not sure it's going away anytime soon. It is the breaking down of silos between the development team and the operations team to ensure better collaboration, faster deployment and releases, and also increase the trust and transparency across the organizations. DevOps is included in the agile methodologies. It is one of the key factors in there. And also, we need to ensure that for organizations and to achieve a DevOps um, lifecycle, we want to ensure that we don't just break down the cultural silos, but also in terms of the technology that's utilized. All right, we're going to be looking at how we employ DevOps for this project. We have two options. We're going to look at both options. Option one is the manual build with continuous deployment, so manual build and automated release. And option two is fully automated, so automated build and automated deployment. This is the manual build option. We have two stages. We have the test stage and the production stage. Each stage represents a software environment. So currently, whatever we're working on is in the development stage. And then we have the testing stage and the production stage. The testing stage is where we can make is where we can implement tests and check out new features. Whereas the production stage is the live stage, so that's what the users have access to and can see. While the development stage is where all our development is happening. And currently, for the manual release pipeline, we will not be having a separate development stage because the development stage is where we're currently working on. Um, so let's take a look at that. We have three jobs. We have a pre-deployment script, we have a template deployment, and then we have a post-deployment script. We also have continuous delivery deployment enabled for this pipeline. We'll go ahead and create a manual release and take a look at that. The test stage is completed and the production stage requires manual approval before it continues. This was created by design. So the test stage, we can run all the tests we want, and then human needs to come in and then review that the test stage has succeeded sufficiently to be moved on to the production stage, since our production stage is live. Right now the test stage is getting the updates from the ADF publish branch. So in data factory we have to click on ADF publish, and then an ADF publish branch is created. And the test stage reads the data from the ADF publish branch. And currently our ADF publish branch is a few commits behind the actual main branch. So there would be a notable difference in the production and test environments from using the manual release pipeline and from using the automated release pipeline. Let's take a look at those before we approve the production stage. All right, so we have that this is our test CI/CD data factory. We have that this is our test data factory. And we can see that we have a single pipeline in here. It's just a wait pipeline. And we can take a look at the production pipeline. All right, currently our production pipeline has two, our production data factory, has two pipelines. Let's refresh that. Yes, we do have two pipelines. Let's go ahead and approve the change to the production stage. All right, we're just going to go ahead and approve this. And what we expect to see is we expect to see our test environment replicated in our production environment. So our test data factory should be replicated in our production data factory, and we expect to have only one pipeline. The production stage is now completed. Let's take a look at our production pipeline once more. Okay, so we have our production pipeline. We had two pipelines here. Our production data factory, we had two pipelines here. Let's go ahead and refresh. And now we see that we have only one pipeline. These are production data factory, and that's exactly what we have in the test data factory with one pipeline as well. All right, and that's what we have for the manual release. For the manual build and automated release pipeline. We just call it manual ADF-CD manual release pipeline here. If we take a look at the branches that we currently have, we'll see that we have a main branch and we have an ADF published branch. And we mentioned earlier that our manual pipeline is using what we have in the ADF published branch. And we can note that the ADF published branch is 29 commits behind our comparison branch. Now let's take a look at the other option, which is the fully automated solution. So the automated build and automated release solution. For this option, we have our artifact, which is we have one of our artifacts as our output from the build. And this is the automated release section. Let's take a look first at the automated build section. Okay, this is what we have for the automated build section. We have some variables in here. We could have used all our variables, stored them in here for what we have here as variables, but we just stored the sensitive information, which is the subscription ID. Everything could be saved, but for right now, we're just using that subscription ID saved. So let's take a look at what we have for the automated build. This is what we have. We have a YAML file that has been created. Now let's take a look at what we have for the automated release option. So we have three stages in this option. We have the development stage, the test stage, and the production stage. So we have one more stage compared to what we had for the manual pipeline option. And we also have here continuous delivery enabled. So once we make a change to our pipeline, the automated build is triggered, and once the automated build is completed, that triggers the automated release. So this is a fully automated solution. And we can go ahead and take a look at creating it, at deploying it, manually deploying it and seeing what exactly we have in our data factories. So we're just going to go ahead and click on create release right now. All right, that release has been created, but let's go back and take a look at what we had in our data factory previously. Right, just to iterate, this is our test data factory, and currently we have one pipeline in our test data factory. This is the data factory we're used to. This is data factory we created in the previous iterations of this project. We can see that we have a couple of resources here. We have pipelines, we have data sets, we have data flows. Okay, so we want to see those data flows, those resources replicated in our test environment and also in our production environment. Let's take a look at that. One more thing to note is that we have triggers enabled. We have our ingest trigger enabled and our process trigger enabled. So for this DevOps section, we're going to be running the trigger to ingest the ECDC data and then process it. We're not going to go on to the SQLize step, but we're going to ingest it and we're going to process it. Also really important to note that our test data factory, which we're currently looking at, has no triggers whatsoever. The final thing that I have deemed important to note here is that we need to ensure the isolation that comes with each environment stage. So we need to ensure that all the resources in the development environment interact with resources in the development environment. All the resources in the production environments likewise interact with only resources in the production environment. So we've used variables to ensure that we access the specified resources in their specified environments. Um, Gratefully, Azure Data Factory gives us something called variables. The variables have a scope, so we can edit our parameters to ensure that our resources stay within the specified scope, which for us is the environment stage. Um, that is the last thing that I have deemed important to note. Just additional side note to that is for each stage, we ensure that we created the appropriate resources. So we know that we access a storage account and we access a data lake. And so we have ensured that we have those resources replicated in our different stages. All right, this is just to ensure that we mimic the different environment stages and ensure that everything is isolated and that our products would work effectively in the development stage where we're building it and the testing stage where it can be run on different operating systems and also in the production stage where we anticipate how it would be used by users. The test stage would also include not just optimal scenarios, but also how we can handle faults and handle varying load. All right, that's it for this. Let's go back to taking a look at our release pipeline, our automated release pipeline. All right, our fully automated solution has passed the development stage and passed the production stage. Now it's pending approval past the development stage and past the test stage. Now it's pending approval for the production stage. Before we approve it, let's go and make sure that everything is as expected in the testing stage. So let's take a look at the testing data factory. This is a testing data factory. Previously, we had one pipeline and no triggers. Let's go ahead and refresh it. Okay, we can see that we have 11 pipelines and we have our triggers carried over. Really quick, let's take a look at that. So we have our triggers carried over and the triggers that were previously started in our development stage, in our development environment, have been started in our testing environment as well, which is really good. Currently, our debug process failed for the processing pipeline for cases and deaths. So we took a look at the data flow and we can notice that we have our source, which is the raw cases and deaths. And when we take a look at the source, we note that we were using the old link service. So we created new link services to ensure that our platforms or different environments could access the respective resources. So we're going to go ahead and make the edits to this in our development pipe in our development environment, and then we're going to trigger a new build from the development environment. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we've made all the changes we needed to make. Now let's go ahead and create a pull request. I added myself as a reviewer since I'm the only person working on this. We can go ahead and take a look at the files. Everything looks good. Let's go ahead and approve that and merge it. This triggered a new build and likewise a new release. Okay. This triggered a new build and likewise a new release. All right, we're currently in the test data factory. We have the process hospital data and the process cases and deaths data both passing. So this looks like good enough tests that pass. So we could go ahead and approve the production pipeline. All right, so we went ahead and approved the production environment stage, and we can take a look at the runs. So we had this pipeline run the process hospital admissions data pipeline, and that succeeded. Now we've taken a look at the two options, the manual build and automated deployment and the fully automated solution. That's it for this DevOps stage. See you in the next one.